Israel went from focusing on Gaza to having a multi-front war fast. We know Israel is dealing with Gaza, but now Israel is dealing with Lebanon to the north, they're dealing with Syria, and if you want to add the West Bank in there, you might as well because there's action going on in the West Bank. Now, we'll get to all of these areas, but right now the main focus is Israel and Gaza. Israel is doing whatever it takes, near medieval tactics, to totally siege all of Gaza. This is the big news, but there's also big implications here, because the world has this tone of they're a little shocked how far Israel is actually willing to go to cut the supplies of everyone in Gaza, not only Hamas, but everyone, and this is the unfortunate actions of war. But nonetheless, Israel has said they are only willing to negotiate with Hamas if Hamas releases all targets, hostages, back to Israel. So, as far as Israel is concerned, they've had the Red Cross reach out to them. They've had the UN reach out to them. Israel will not stop the siege on Gaza until these hostages are back in Israeli hands. Now consider this, Israel, even by their own standards and their Air Force capabilities, is taking things to a whole new level like they've never done before. Israel has had some pretty incredible missions where they've actually flown all the way to Iraq and taken out a nuke reactor, but this time it's personal, going after Hamas and taking out every single target. Now, what's interesting is Israel has actually come out and said they've taken out the headquarters where the initial attack, where it was planned on Israel, it was taken out, the headquarters of Hamas. Nonetheless, this doesn't seem to deteriorate Hamas capabilities because Hamas is still attacking Israel from within Gaza. So as long as Hamas is willing to keep attacking Israel, Israel is willing to keep attacking Hamas. And again, the unfortunate side of any conflict is the civilians are suffering. Now, there is a bit of a silver lining where there are humanitarian efforts trying to help the civilians of Gaza. Now again, Israel has stated they're not trying to attack civilians, but it's very difficult to strike targets when Hamas is embedded within the civilian populations. This has always been the issue of Israel going after Hamas within Gaza. But again, this is different. Israel has never taken these steps to where so many people are affected directly. Now, Israel has also stated that they are on the new stages of war or preparing for a new stage of war. Many people speculate that this is the indicator for the ground invasion into Gaza. Israel just had to go door to door throughout their entire country to secure the nation. Israel has been wanting to secure the nation from day zero, but it's been rather difficult when you have had these lone wolf attacks, not only in Gaza, but also up into the north. And we'll go up into the north right now. So Lebanon, you have Hezbollah to the north, where they are getting really froggy, and they're getting really confident, willing to take up arms and to fight Israel. This is nothing new. However, they are highly motivated by their quote-unquote Palestinian brothers is what they're saying. Now, you've had a lot of false alarms and a lot of real alarms. Nonetheless, Israel is not playing this game of, oh, it's just a false alarm, let's go back to bed. Israel has deployed many soldiers to the north to prevent another mass attack. Now, what's interesting is that Israel has actually indicated themselves that there's a mass attack coming from Hezbollah, but this was just a false alarm. For some reason, there was a red alert that gliders are coming into the country, there's drones everywhere, but again, Israel has said this is totally fake, it never happened. But understand this, it goes to show that Israel is on high alert and they're not taking anything as a mere threat, they're taking it very serious. So as far as Hezbollah being an effective force, the main issue is that they're effective in the way where they are pulling resources away from Israel, and that in itself is very effective to pull away troops from the Gaza front, because Israel, although a very good military, they're also a rather small military. Now, they're very motivated, but again, to extend your resources, you'd rather have those guys fighting over in Gaza as opposed to just standing there on the Lebanon front. So that looks like the main role Hezbollah wants to play in this conflict. They are pop-shotting over across the border, looking to try hitting Israeli targets. Nonetheless, though, they are more just there, it looks like, to make Israel look the other way and not look to the south where the real threats are. And speaking of real threats, Israel is also involved in Syria. They've been involved in Syria for a while, striking targets even before this war. Now, there are reports that the airports of Aleppo and Damascus have been hit. No one knows who they've been hit by, but a lot of fingers point to Israel, because when Israel was asked about these attacks, all they said was, we don't comment on these things. They didn't say we didn't do it, or they didn't say we did do it, but historically speaking, Israel has actually been known specifically to strike these two targets. Now, why would Israel randomly attack these airports in Syria? You would think they would consolidate their resources and focus their resources over on the northern and southern fronts. Well, there's many reasons for this. Israel knows that the Iranian ambassador wants to get into Syria and have talks. No one knows what these talks are, but these are the airports that the Iranian ambassador would be landing at. And Biden already made a threat, and Israel already made a threat. Iran, be careful and stay out of this conflict. Now, again, these attacks were perceived to be a deterrent, a warning, because Iran does want to come into Syria, and this attack at the time of making the video is the day before Iran is supposed to be coming into Syria. There's also plenty of evidence and mass speculation of Iran is funding this entire campaign. I mean, even Iran has somewhat alluded to that. Now, they're saying specifically here they have nothing to do with it, but all of the intelligence from the United States and Israel says otherwise. Now, as far as your action going on in the West Bank, it's your classic Palestinian protest that escalates to violence. And unfortunately, this violence ends in casualties. So this is what Israel has mainly been dealing with on the West Bank. This is something they're used to when it comes to protest. Now, again, Israel is on high alert. So if anyone is trying to protest or anyone is trying to demean Israeli troops, you got to be careful, because these guys are not joking this time. Now, what's very difficult for Israel is that they're not fighting a professional military. They are fighting an insurgency. And you know, the United States has definitely struggled with fighting an insurgency, but here it's rather difficult, because at least for the United States, especially in Afghanistan, the United States did not necessarily have to worry too much about collateral damage, especially on the eastern portions of Afghanistan, dealing with the Kunar province and other provinces where you're attacking a mountain and then they hide into Pakistan. For Israel, they have their enemies right next to them, but their enemies are also highly embedded with a civilian population. So this is a double-edged sword for Israel. I do highly want to stress that Israel indicates and knows there is a humanitarian crisis, and this is where the gray line is, and this is where even allies of Israel are a little weary to, they do support Israel, but they don't necessarily support this humanitarian crisis, because Israel again says, we will turn on the water, we will turn on the power if Hamas returns these hostages. Now, what if Hamas doesn't have these hostages, and what if these hostages are not even around anymore? Hamas has indicated that at least 4 hostages have already been taken out by Israeli air power. That's one thing to think about. Now, we don't know if this is true or not, but nonetheless, if these hostages are not around, who's to say Israel will not escalate this to a whole new level? Because if these hostages are not around, there's only one reason for it. It's because Hamas took them out themselves. And not only that, these hostages are not only Israeli citizens. Some of them are American, Ukrainian. There's a lot of other nationals within Hamas's possession. So this could become an even further escalation of force. As we know, the United States is already in the area with special operators on the ground, helping with the reconnaissance efforts and the planning efforts within Israel, not in Gaza, in Israel. We also know that the United States has aircraft carriers in the region, and there's another one that might be deployed soon. It's already on the schedule to be deployed. So who knows what could happen. If more evidence shows that these hostages are not around, it might get really bad for Gaza and Hamas. The one key factor I want to say is this. It does look like unequivocally everyone, even enemies of Israel, they do want to help with the humanitarian effort within Gaza. So at least that is a good thing. You don't have an Israel who's just like leveling all of Gaza and could care less. Because even on the Israeli Defense Force updates, they do indicate like this sense of we do feel bad, but you have to understand they are hiding within your people. You support Hamas, so we have to go after them, and that's what Israel is trying to do. So I'm trying to get both sides of the story here to indicate that yes, Israel, they know what they're doing is kind of like medievalish, but this siege, they have to do it to totally eliminate Hamas. They don't want Hamas to ever attack Israel ever again. That is why they are taking it to this level, and that is why Israel is willing to extend their reach over into Syria, over into Lebanon, the West Bank. They are doing whatever it takes to ensure that Israel never gets attacked ever again.